Started. Good luck. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Board of Education being held on January 26th here in the Board of Education room at 6:30 p.m. After the Pledge of Allegiance, let's just take a brief moment of silence to keep in our thoughts the passing of Dr. John Kodra, retired Assistant Superintendent of Business.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody. We need a motion for executive session. Scott. Be it resolved, the Board of Education will enter into executive session with the intent to reconvene the business portion of the meeting for discussions related to the employment history of a particular person or persons. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. We'll be back shortly. We're back on. Okay, we need a motion to reconvene the meeting. Scott, all in favor? Aye. Very good. Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to the president's report. First of all, Happy New Year to everyone in our community.
Yes.
It's good to be back. Hope everybody had a really safe, wonderful, and enjoyable holiday season. I have just a few things to report on here tonight. Later on in the meeting, if you're around or listening, we're going to discuss a few items during our open agenda. We have an empty board member seat that we're going to discuss and make a decision how we're going to move forward with that. We also will be having to make a decision tonight on a search firm. It's our next important step in moving forward with our permanent superintendent position. So we'll have that open for discussion tonight, deciding on what our next move is here. With that being said, in the search for a full-time superintendent, we have done quite a few other steps. We've met with a few of our stakeholder groups, our representatives from the GTA, GAA, and CSEA, had some time, excuse Mr. Bon Jovi, and just get some good insight from them. We've had all of our survey results come in. We had an open survey for a few weeks in early December, and there were 340 plus or minus folks who picked up or sent in surveys, and 250 plus were completed. So we had a nice return rate of above 75% with pretty good information that I think is really going to help us moving forward. The questionnaires, talking about the most important qualities that people in our community and our stakeholders would like to see in our forthcoming permanent superintendent position. So everybody who had taken the time to complete those surveys, thank you. That's important and helpful information, and definitely going to guide us moving forward in the future. I'm going to save that one. Okay, we do not have our student representative here. So we'll jump into the board member committee reports. I'll give a quick report on our policy committee. We've continued to meet last month, and we're going to be scheduling a few meetings now, but our full policy audit is about 85 to 90% complete, which is a big lift. It was a big goal of the board, I think a year and a half ago at this point. And so we're this close to completing our rollover into the NISBA format and fully reviewing every policy that we've had open. So again, thank you to Mr. Bon Jovi, especially Maureen, for the continued support in getting those sections together, and for all of our team members, whether it's central office or at the building level, who've given feedback on policies that are relative to their work. Thank you again. It's a big goal of ours. It's almost completed. Any other board member, committee, legislative, or updates anybody would like to share? Very good. Regarding policies, does anybody need time for their first readings? All right. No. Should I just stop asking the question? Okay. We're all on the same page. Great. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bon Jovi for our interim superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to reiterate what you said. Mrs. Farrell really, she does the heavy lifting. I can't take responsibility. She does a lot of background work on the policies. It's can be some of that material that kind of puts you to sleep. But when you can't fall asleep, so you sit down, you read the policy. But she does an amazing job getting it organized for us, getting the corrections made. So thank you very much. I did want to start January. Happy New Year, everyone. 2026. It's amazing. I've said to many people, it really doesn't seem that long ago when everyone was in a panic about the year 2000. And that was now 26 years ago. So hope everyone had a great holiday. Was able to spend some time with family and friends. I did want to give what I call the state of the union address, kind of the state of the district report. We have so many things to celebrate. I have to say, I started here July 1, and since that time, it's been a total team effort. So it's not the superintendent, believe me. It's everyone. So it starts with the bus drivers, the clerical, the aides, food service, buildings and grounds, the security, teachers, administrators, and certainly the parents and guardians, and of course the students, because it does take a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to move us forward in a positive direction. And I'm really feeling very good about the direction we're moving in. We did get a lot of great things accomplished, and I'll be reviewing over those in some detail tonight. And I'm sure over the time that I've been here, it is possible that not everyone is always happy with all the decisions I've made or agrees with them. But please understand, it's the superintendent's job with the administration to run the district, to make decisions. Certainly, I weigh all options, and every decision I make is in the best interest of students. As I've said before, if everyone was happy with how I'm doing, I'm not doing my job correctly. Please know that I consider all facts, all information, and all opinions before decisions are made. I want to just remind everyone, this this journey we're on, making great strides here in Goshen. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we're moving forward, but one thing I want to kind of get straight, I heard this phrase, several months ago getting here. And some people say, well, it's slow motion Goshen. Well, that's not anymore. That's 2025 and before. We are now forward motion Goshen. But again, this is a marathon, so things aren't gonna change immediately, but we're in forward motion, a positive motion, and really going towards some great things. I would like to begin tonight, though, with a mid-year report for one of our directors. So Mr. George St. Lawrence, as we know, back, he was appointed officially, I believe, in October. So I'd like him to give a report on PE, health, and athletics for this first half of the year. Mr. St. Lawrence?
Bear with me for a moment.
Hang on, I gotta share it.
While we're doing that, I'd like to just say thank you to everybody for the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and also to be able to speak with the community members at home and share some of the insights and some of our most recent things that we're doing in the athletic department. For people who know, in this room, I serve as a K-12 physical education, health, and athletic director. And the majority of my time is spent with athletics, but I want to touch upon something that I think is very important for everybody here to be reminded of. We work in a business where people make the difference. In my 40+ years in education, people make the difference. We have great facilities, people make the difference. We have great buildings, people make the difference. We have great educators, we have great administrators, we have great school board members. People make the difference in education. With that being said, my theme tonight, and I have a short presentation, is going to carry that theme throughout each of the following 8 slides I'd like to share with you. So my first slide, we'll talk about physical education and also our health program, but specifically physical education. So we're going to start where it starts, on the level of K, SAS physical education. We are very fortunate to have educators who dedicate themselves to the standards by which New York State sets for us in physical education. The mission on the early years is different than the mid years, different than the middle school years, different than the high school years. So just as a framework, I want to say that our SAS physical education mission is to provide students with a foundation of physical activity and overall wellness aligned with the New York State standards. We are there to promote learning through high quality, high energy, and age developmentally appropriate activities. And this is important. This is the beginning of movement education. This is individuals understanding the value of play. and then to introduce students to a variety of skill building through movement activities. And I'm gonna mention the people that make the difference. Rick Sternkoff and Matt Sass are physical education teachers. And in the picture is John Dombrowski, who served this year as a student teacher in SAS and is also a Goshen resident. So we're very fortunate to have all three of them in the picture. I'd like to move forward now, if I may, to the second school in the line of education K-12, and that's the GIS Physical Education Program. Again, I said people make the difference. We have two outstanding educators in Mike Tagney and Brian Johnson. Mike is the experienced, been around a little bit, been on a number of different levels, and Brian has been at GIS and also at the high school when he entered our Goshen school system about 4 years ago now. The GIS program is a little bit different, but the mission seems to stay the same. And there are 6 learning objectives that New York State outlines for physical education. And you're gonna see that when we get to our high school slide. But basically, just to share with you, this level is to provide students with a foundation of physical activity, overall wellness aligned with the New York State standards and centered on movement activities. To promote self-learning through activities that introduce basic knowledge, strategies, and tactics relating to games and lifetime wellness. This is where our students in physical education start to get an idea of team concepts, also some sports being introduced, but still with the emphasis on movement, learning how to throw, catch, run, spatial awareness, etc. And then the final on the slide is to introduce students to a variety of skill building and fitness activities. Now, I'm going to take a moment, if I may, before I go into our secondary level and just touch upon some of the things that are happening at our buildings on these levels. SAS this past fall had the Scotty third annual fun run, a 0.4 mile run around Mount Olympus. Unbelievable enthusiasm that I witnessed, unbelievable kids just out there running and playing for the sake of running and tying it into physical education. In next month, which is the American Heart Association, Heart Awareness, Healthy Heart Awareness, our SAS students will be actively involved in that with the guidance of Mr. Sass. On the end of the year, as we face coming to the end of the year, we have the Jelly Bean Field Day at GIS, which is an annual tradition that encompasses many people in the community, extending beyond just what our physical education staff does. So, those are things that we are proud of. And then the last thing I'll mention is our annual kinder dance at the end, combining our physical education program with our music department at SAS. It is a wonderful event, so I encourage everybody to watch the calendars as we move through this year in the physical education activity on these levels. And I'm now going to move into what is considered the start of our secondary level. And you're going to notice that my slide presentation is a little bit different on this one. I'm proud to mention the 4 people that are part of our staff, 3 of them who are in our classroom physical education setting, and Michelle Kellenberger, who is the health instructor for the middle school. And we have all 4 of them as part of my department. I'm honored to have the experience of John Mardignac, the knowledge of Michelle Kellenberger, the leadership of John E. Russo and Sharon Yergel, bringing up all the new and exciting things that are happening in physical education. It is a fantastic team in the middle school, and I'm sure Ms. Sindel will agree. If you take a look to the left, our health program is set up on 10-week courses, and they meet every day. Our physical education is set up on a full year course, but it meets in alternate days. And that's important to delineate a little bit. Our grade level units are included up there for grades 6, 7, and 8 for everybody to see. I don't need to read them to you. And then what I did was I wanted to put the units for what we do in the middle school for the fall, the winter, and the spring. And the reason why I want to juxtapose these is that when you're entering into the 7th grade here at Goshen Central School District, you are now evolving into aspects of teams, strategies, wellness, lifetime fitness, cooperative ventures, working together to solve problems, problem solving, critical thinking, all part of what our physical education program provides on the 7 in the middle school setting as well as in our 9 through 12 setting. So just want to again mention 4 outstanding physical education teachers there. Honored to work with every one of those 4. Slide number 4 is going to bring us to the high school. And it's nice to see the entire staff together. We have 6 educators in the high school. It's kind of a hybrid a little bit in that our physical education program at the high school is very unique to the county. We actually offer health activities of CPR and first aid as part of our physical education curriculum. And we do have a dedicated health teacher in Lynn Abrams, honored, recognized throughout the state, national recognition, fantastic health educator. The best thing I can tell you about Lynn Abrams is when I want to know something about health, I'm going to go to her. I'm her supervisor. The best thing that I can say for Lynn is, Lynn, keep doing what you're doing and let me know when you need a little bit of help. She does a fantastic job. We're blessed to have her. I don't want to single her out totally, but I did want to mention that our health program touches upon some of the same information that our middle school initiates, and just goes into a little bit more depth. I want you to take a look at the middle there. We have Gus Lawson right in the middle. Gus was just announced by the student body as the Mr. Pantheon, the teacher of the month. He got the belt, and if you take a look at our website, ladies and gentlemen, you will see him with smiling with 2 of our students there. It's just a great honor to be recognized, and as a department, I just want to touch upon that. If you take a look at the standards on the left, Goshen Health and Physical Education Learning Standards, I put these up because really this is the culmination of what we're trying to do in physical education K-12. These standards directly align with our curriculum, our current curriculum, our curriculum moving forward, as well as what the state expectations are for physical education. So I would like to mention that to everybody. We service everybody in the high school in physical education. It is a graduation requirement, and this is the staff that does it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Joe Manaseri on the left, Kirsten Swain, Gus Lawson, Ed Killenberger, Lynn Abrams, and John Stevens. Just an outstanding program. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm now going to talk a little bit about athletics, if I may. I'll just touch upon this, but I think these are very, very important notables to mention. In our fall season, we had 9 varsity athletic teams. All 9 of the Goshen High School varsity athletic teams were recognized in the New York State Scholar Athlete Program. This is phenomenal for us, and it's a continuing tradition. I stood before the board a couple of years ago and talked about how we went an entire season at Goshen where every team qualified for the Scholar Athlete Program, and we were noted as a school of distinction for that. Every team is listed there, and just to give you an idea, 142 Goshen student athletes were recognized. It's an outstanding number. If you take a look below that, I just want to touch upon fall season update. The 2025 New York State Public High School Athletic Association state qualifiers. We had a surprise doubles team, Delia and Emma, Delia McGovern and Emma Schroeder. They were 3rd in the county, qualified in the following sections and made it to the states. Delia is only a freshman, Emma is a senior, and they worked so well together for the success of our girls qualifying for the states and the double team in tennis. Oops.
That's my fault, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'll go back. In addition, we had a notable sophomore who for the 2nd year in a row made it to the podium in state diving. Kaylee Krogan, as a freshman last year, finished 5th in New York State. This year she finished 2nd in New York State in diving. And Grace Matthews, who set a school record in the 200 freestyle for us, also only a freshman in swimming. And then we had Jackson St. Lawrence and Isabella Williams, both qualified for the cross-country states, and Jackson finished 2nd in the state this year. The winter season highlights to date, Goshen athletic participation numbers remain high with 354 students competing on our varsity, JV, and modified teams this winter. We were one of the top 3 in the county when it comes to participation numbers for our students and student athletes. You take a look at 1,000-student high school and 354 kids are involved in athletics is a credit to every one of the students and all of our coaches. I'd like to touch upon some individuals here that I've highlighted. Yes, we do have Evan Wheaton, who's senior captain, achieved his milestone of 100 career victories that took place in December in Newburgh. It was a phenomenal feat. And I believe we also, Coach, we talked a little bit, we had Ray Schaefer, correct? Just recently at Warwick, reached his 100. To have two wrestlers have a career where they can accomplish over 100 victories is notable for everybody to know, including our community. We just recently had Joyce Sawyer, who in 2025 spring became state champion for us. She set the school record yesterday in 55-meter dash, 7.14 at this Invitational Standard Games. And then senior Zayden Thomas also set the school record in the 300-meter dash at the same games. Our boys varsity basketball team, as I stand before you, as of January 6th, is ranked 9th in New York State. For our AA state rankings and continue to have a super weekend with 3 teams coming down and playing on Saturday. We have a little jamboree for modified JV and varsity. Our girls varsity cheerleading team just won the prestigious Minnesota Cheer Invitational, defeating 11 teams, and our JV team finished second. Just to let everybody know, those are the defending champion girl Goshen cheerleading squads. I also want to mention something that oftentimes doesn't get mentioned. We have a ski team that's off to a great start. Ski season really doesn't pick up until after this report, but I want you to know skiing and swimming both are kind of in their seasons now, and our numbers are up for participation in both of those sports, and it's a credit to our coaches. And then the last thing to share with everybody is just recent college commits. Isabella Oak and Goff for Niagara University, Tad Kovacs, Stephen Kovacs Jr. for baseball, Albany, and Sophia Springer, early admission to Seton Hall. She's only going into her junior this year for softball. So those are our notables. And I'm about ready to wrap it up with the current athletic department initiatives. We have 2 things going on. I want everybody in the school board, everybody in attendance, and also everybody in the community to know that we've initiated our 100-day food drive is underway with, in conjunction with the Goshen Varsity Club and the Goshen High School student body. The motto is one team, be a fan, bring a can. We are accepting donations at all home, varsity, and JV boys and girls basketball games, wrestling matches, and the details and blue food bag drive bags are available in my office moving forward. Just to mention to everybody, there's always a need for giving. I put on the bottom there, remember, giving has no expiration date. It doesn't expire. And at this time of the year, for everybody to know, January and February are critical months for the food pantry. So our student athletes are giving back, and I'm glad to be associated with that for our community, directly for our community. And then the last thing I want to leave you with, as far as my report, and I have a surprise for everybody. We have Goshen Athletics Hall of Fame is currently seeking archives, records, stories, and historical input from the community. We are updating, expanding, and cataloging the historical database of our, yes, that is not a typo, 130 years of athletics in this community, going all the way back to 1896. More to follow on that. So anybody and everybody out there listening, anybody that wants to get in contact with us, we've dedicated an email to Goshen Hall of Fame at gcsny.org. We will be monitoring that for quick collection of data and specific communications. Now, I know I'm a little bit long-winded here, but I gotta live up to my reputation as a responsibility, so thank you for everybody. I could go on and on, but these are some of our highlights, and again, I'm very proud of our student athletes. I'm very proud to be this community's athletic director. And I'm also very proud to take a moment here and ask one of our staff members in our department, my department, who's here tonight in the front row. I'd like John Reardon. John, if you could come up and just stand next to me at the podium for a moment. I want to introduce you to everybody who might not know you. And I also want to thank Coach for being here. I also want to thank John's mom for being here. John stands next to me, probably puts in more hours than anybody in this district, with the exception of Mr. Bon Jovi. He is dedicated to the student bodies of our school district beyond what anybody could expect. This is a man who's been with us for 6 years, who has dedicated his life to helping people, has dedicated his life to athletics, and has dedicated a good portion of his last 6 years here to the success of our athletic teams, all the athletic teams, to the success of them by caring for and nurturing our student athletes. We have 2 offices set up for John. One is in the high school for the winter and then outside for the fall and the spring. And he's a one-man band show. And tonight, John, I want the community to know how appreciative I am as your immediate supervisor. The coaches that you serve, who every day appreciate what you do for the student athletes that they are coaching. And specifically, John, for the student body that you serve, for the kids who are watching and know and see you and count on you every day, because you're doing it every day. So with that being said, Mr. Bon Jovi, I think you have a little something
I
that
do have a certificate of appreciation here. Proudly presented to Jonathan Reardon in recognition for your outstanding dedication, exceptional performance, and valuable contribution to the Goshen Central School District Athletic Department. And John, I've been in, a couple different school districts. That's where you make the difference, when a school has a trainer that really takes the athletics from here to here. So thank you so much for everything you do for our students and our community. And thanks so much.
I will turn the hijacking of this school board meeting back over.
Come on over here, coach. Tell us where to go.
All right, everybody on one foot. Thanks, John.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. What are you guys? I get
Mom, you did a great job.
Thank you. I'm tearing.
I know you'll find a spot for that.
And before I move forward with the rest of my mid-year report, I have a special announcement also. So I just found out in section 9, so every section in the state awards one athletic director the Judith Ann Knight Award. And this is the Positive Change Award. It's given to an athletic director who's enhanced positive change, strong leadership, and is dedicated to boys and girls athletics with a specific focus on, as Judith had, on girls sports. And of course, section 9's recipient this year is going to be none other than Mr. George St. Lawrence. He'll be receiving that award at an annual banquet at the yearly conference this spring in Saratoga. So
Thank you, Mr.
I hope to be there with you. So we started off this year, we established board goals. I want to just quickly review them, more for the public. We know what our goals are, but it's important to revisit the goals so you can kind of look at, well, how are we doing? Are we meeting these goals? So number 1, recruit a full-time superintendent. So we're working on that. 2, continue to focus on the district facility needs and create a comprehensive plan. I'll get more into that later. 3, continue to review PPS initiatives and programs to meet the needs of our students. 4, expand internal and external communication. And 5, develop a fiscally responsible budget for next school year. So pretty much in chronological order, there's a lot of great highlights. I can't thank James McGarland and his staff. We, in a very short amount of time this summer, we vacated and abated and successfully got back to the Main Street building. And that was really just a team effort Thank you, Ms. McArdle, and to all your staff. We had a great opening day event, very positive, kind of rebuilding for the new year. We successfully rolled out the bell-to-bell ban of cell phones, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was a little worried, I gotta admit, about this new law, but it really has been very positive. And as we've talked about before, the students are talking to each other more, there are less distractions, so really, it's a home run. We've been keeping the public informed, as we said tonight, about the search for a new full-time superintendent. We hired George St. Lawrence as full-time athletic director. We granted Mr. Pantaleone tenure as high school principal. We hired Janelle Hindell as a CJ Hooker principal and Megan Connors as CJ Hooker assistant principal. And then, of course, we honored the contributions and legacy of Mr. Roy Reese, who's home doing well. We streamlined the board meetings, both the calendar of them and the agenda itself, so that we have more time for academic presentations that inform the public about what's going on in the schools. We've had those monthly presentations, including a review of the PPS department, the Orton Gillingham presentation, the PBIS programs at Scotstown and GIS, and the high school grad measures and other presentations. I think I'm doing a pretty good job maintaining high visibility, being at events, not just sporting events, so, the plays, the concerts, just out in the public. I have my weekly videos, which I presume everyone here watches them, of course. Those come out every Thursday through Parent Square, and they're on the district website. I also have my coffee with soup, where that's kind of morphed into, it really is become a life of its own. I invite all the local, leaders in the village and the town, the county, and it's for parents and guardians. This probably is not the time if you want to come and meet and specifically talk about something privately, but it's a nice opportunity to come to see me, see your other local leaders, and kind of get an update on what's going on. So I have my next one is this coming Thursday, the 15th, 8:30 a.m. at the Diplomat Cafe. And yes, I am looking at my calendar for February. I'll do something a little bit more in the late afternoon, early evening for any parents who work, who are interested in going to that. I just got to fit that in. As we talked about, we've had regular policy committee meetings. We are, 85% done going over and public understand there are hundreds and hundreds of policies. So really, it was a Herculean task that was done by the policy committee in this past year. The facilities committee has been meeting. I'll talk more about that when we get to the budget presentation a little bit, but tentatively, our goal is to have a capital project vote for next December 2026 on capital projects for the district. District-wide, there's been many, many positive initiatives, trainings. It's impossible to list all of them. I'm gonna list a lot of them though. So some of the trainings include crisis prevention training, scholastic literacy focused on the science of reading, something called foundations training, teacher aid trainings. We had vocabulary trainings in ENL. We've had many different PBIS initiatives. Just today, we did a Columbia risk assessment training for suicide prevention. We've had MTSS training. We've had field trips on all levels. District-wide, we collaborate with ADAC. We have the Student of the Month program at CJ Hooker. We have ongoing collaboration with Orange Ulster BOCES Instructional Support Services. They're fantastic there. We've had training on IEP development. Our PPS department has transitioned to paperless communication to improve efficiency and communication. District-wide, we use Parent Square to inform parents of things. We've coming up the CJ Hooker Spelling Bee. We've been working on financial literacy courses for the middle school and high school, which coming down the pipe is going to be a requirement in New York State. K-5, we updated the report cards and went paperless on those. The high school adopted the art and music pathways and collaborated with the Blue Ribbon Commission on the new high school grad measures. And of course, the PPS department with their whole committee were planning the 10th annual Elementary Special Olympics. And of course, we've been giving monthly updates pretty much every, since September on the budget. So that kind of leads me into talking a little bit more about the budget, the 2026-27 budget. And I've kind of had that theme, needs and wants. So, and I'll be repeating that, needs and wants, needs and wants. Every school district has a needs list, things that we need this. In your home life, at home, you have a needs list. We all also have in both those lives a wants list, but you can't have both. And certainly, when we are purchasing things with public money, we need to be very careful and kind of separate those out. Our needs, our wants, and then you prioritize, well, which ones do we need to do first? So as a school district, it's my job to work with faculty, staff, the board, to concentrate on the needs. We want to provide, of course, the best possible education for our students at a price that the taxpayers can support. But I'm a firm believer that the community is willing to support initiatives when they know what their tax dollars are going towards. All right, so I want to go over, these are some of the things that we need moving forward. So first, this was the top priority, a full-time elementary assistant principal at both Scotstown and GIS. We took a look at that, and when we reviewed our budget, moving some monies around, we had the money now to do that. We'll have the money moving forward into the coming years to do that. So this was something that really, we had 1,100 students. When you put Scotstown and GIS together, that's 1,100 students that will be positively impacted every day with a full-time AP at both of those buildings. And that was not something I felt we wanted to wait for all the way until next September to get going with. So no slow motion Goshen, forward motion Goshen. Some of the things that we need, I want to put it out there to the board, I want to put it out to the public. These are things we need. It's not a complete list, but it's a pretty big list. We need another school psychologist at both high school and CJ Hooker. We need a school counselor at CJ Hooker. We need a full-time speech pathologist. We need a registered behavior technician. We need a CSE chairperson. We need additional custodians, additional grounds people, clerical, lunch monitors, bus monitors. We need more funding for professional development. We need to update our K-6 social studies and math. We need classroom technology updates. So just the computers, the desktops, the panels, all need to be updated. We need more Chromebooks to keep up with the replacement cycle. We need network infrastructure. We need some new buses. We need new heavy equipment. We need new exterior doors. We need new lighting in our theaters. A lot of that leads us to the capital project. We need to pass a capital project. So the facilities committee has been meeting to address district-wide buildings and grounds needs. Some things are things you don't see, other things, wow, yeah, we need that. So really it ranges from asbestos abatement, lighting, roofs, boilers, increased safety, general building upgrades, tennis courts, outdoor field upgrades, and much, much more. So we will be continuing to meet and we'll be prioritizing those so that we'll put that out so the public has plenty of time to consider that. But again, with the goal of next December. Now, I haven't even touched on the things we want. That list is just as long. And I have to say, so occasionally I get some emails or phone calls where people want something. So most of the phone calls, when either it's additional staff or some money to be put towards something, many times what the public is talking about are things that you want. So again, and believe me, deep down, I agree with you. So most of the phone calls I get, hey, we need to do this, this, and this. And I think, well, that's not really a need, but yeah, I want that. That absolutely. So I agree with many of the phone calls and suggestions I get. We just have to be realistic of, well, which ones can we really do? So our collective goal is to, again, give our students the best possible education. So we're taking a proactive approach. We'll be pacing ourselves through this marathon over the next several years because we're not going to be able to get all of our needs addressed in a single year. It's my job with the administration and the board to really kind of prioritize these and plan out over several years. So in the next month, we'll get a little bit more specific on some of the items. Hey, these are the things we really need, and this is what we want to do in the 26-27 budget. Understand though, that there's a lot on that list, and again, our goal is to kind of prioritize and knock off a few each year. But it's gonna cost money. We're not gonna be able to do that with a 2-3% increase. We really need to hit our 4.2, which is right now it's 4.2%. That changes, that's our tax cap. We really need to hit that if we can, because to get those things that we'll be explaining to you in more detail, more specifically. Hey, if we want to get the best possible education at Goshen, this is what we need. And to pay for that, this is how we're gonna do it. So again, we'll continue to update the board, update the community on the budget, a little bit more specific next month, because the governor's, we'll talk about that, she's gonna be coming out tomorrow with some new things. I don't usually overly panic on that, the governor's first speech, because there's gonna be a lot of things, a lot of that is gonna be her wish list. And her wants, yes, not the needs necessarily. I did want to say again, it really, it's been a very positive 6 months working with the Board of Education, working with the administration and all faculty and staff and the parents. So I do want to thank everyone. It's a lot, but really the collaboration, it just makes my job and everyone's job easier. So I appreciate it. So that's all for now, Mr. President, and looking forward to continuing to move forward.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bon Jovi. Moving on to our next item, we have our Assistant Superintendent for Business Report, Ms. Marie Van Lammerich.
Good evening and thank you very much. To follow up, follow up with the 26-27 budget. I wanted to say work continues on the budget. And however, we are facing a budget gap of about $6.5 million. However, it is also too early to tell you what that gap will end up being. The governor's address is tomorrow, and we will use her state aid numbers to start the revenue side of the budget when those numbers come out. And our preliminary tax levy cap, as Mr. Bon Jovi mentioned, is 4.2%. So we do still have needs to address in the budget, but we also have to look at our breakage and our attrition as well. And those numbers will make an impact when I start to do the presentations. We do not have rates for the health plan yet, and the BOCES service rates are being finalized, but I do have a rough number that I can use. And so on February 9th, I'll be presenting the non-instructional portion of the budget, and I'll have a different amount of gap for you to have to work with as we move forward. But again, this is always a work in progress, and it's continuous until the budget's adopted by the state and we have our final state aid numbers, but we still have something to go by once the state aid projections come out in January. So also tonight on the board agenda is a corrective action plan for the single audit. And I think the audit committee may remember that, and maybe the auditor spoke about it as well in their presentation, but because the federal government did not have a budget and they were not in service, so to speak, at the time our audit was complete, our single audit, which is for our federal funds, is always done separately. And there was no guidance at the time for that to be issued. Now that the government has adopted their budget and the guidance is out, our auditor has completed the single audit. So the corrective action plan tonight on the agenda is just the same as was included in the total correction plan for all of the funds. It's just singled out as the federal fund. No different than it was in the fall, but we do have to have a separate resolution approving that before we can send it to the federal government. So I have the internal auditors were here before the break, And they will have a draft of the risk assessment for our audit committee to review. So I'm planning to set up an audit committee meeting prior to the next board meeting on February 9th, if that is all right. I will ask Maureen to send an invitation out to you, and we will review it at that time. And then we'll focus on the next steps of the audit. And for the financial information in your packets this month, we have both November and December, because December's meeting was very early. We didn't have the books closed for November. So our expenses in November were $9.9 million, and in December they were $5.3 million. The district received general aid, $521,000 in December, excess cost aid, $1 million, and our VLT lottery aid comes every month, but for those 2 months it totaled $289,000. We did collect some taxes in early November, and those were a little over $1 million. And our interest earnings for those 2 months were $371,000. So that leaves us with our total expenses through December 31st at $36.9 million, or 38.1% of the total budget. And this is in line with where we were as a percentage spent last year at the same time. Our revenue was $71.4 million earned through the end of December, or 77%, and that was up 0.88% in revenue than it was last year this time. Just to give you an idea, I like to compare the years to make sure. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now for our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, Personnel, and Technology Report, Dr. Jason Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Loftus. Good evening, everyone. A few updates for you regarding some of our ongoing work and a few new items for you. So we're entering that time of year where January regions are upon us. Tuesday, the 20th through the 23rd, we will have our testing windows open. We have approximately 189 students scheduled to sit for Regents exams. That's actually a very healthy number. And this will be all regions except for Earth and Space, Bio, and Physics, which of course will be administered in June as well. The elementary levels and the middle school, we are ready to do our computer-based testing stress test on the network. And so our admin team has been working diligently to take all of the data from level 0 to migrate to the Nextera testing system. So really what we're looking at is our student name, grade level, homeroom teachers, and any accommodations that students may need for testing. And so we feel that the system is well prepared. We've been working with Jim Sterritt regarding the network and setting our Chromebooks into testing mode. And so on January 27th, collectively, both buildings will go through the stress test together. And this will give Mr. Sterritt and his team a good chance to look at the traffic on the network and how our network is reacting to that traffic. We haven't had many problems in the past, so knock on wood, hopefully this will be a successful stress test. Just for a reminder, this is in preparation for the computer-based testing, 3-8 assessments that will begin on April 6th, and that window is open until the end of the school day on May 15th. So that'll be here faster than you'll know. UPK is on the agenda for this evening, and so I'll try to just give a few reminders of where we've been, some of the past discussion that we've had. And really the goal here is to get the board as much information as possible so that we can be prepared to open up that window, for UPK registration, and then to move forward with the lottery. And of course, that's all contingent upon the number of seats that we will agree on offering our community. And so on our forward-facing documents, everyone sees that there's $920,362 allocated for UPK for our district, which equates to 160 seats. So if you break that down to a per pupil expenditure, it's $5,752 and some odd cents per student. And so that's what the government kicks in for us. What we did, so currently we have 54 students housed at Scotchtown through the contract that we had extended for the 5th year. If you remember in fall, we put out requests for proposals. And so we got those proposals back in, and actually, believe it or not, we only had one vendor that responded to the request for proposal. And so I have those to share with you later, but the gist of it was we had requested proposals to maintain the 54 seats in-house at Scotchtown. And then we had asked for up to 106 seats, maxing out our 160 seat allocation, so 106 elsewhere at alternate locations. And so we did receive the proposals for in-house and alternate location from one vendor. The in-house cost will be identical if we accept this proposal to what it is for this current school year. So remember, this is for next school year. We do not have the allocation, don't have that figure for next school year, but I would anticipate that it would be much the same, if not hopefully more. So using this year's number, the vendor proposal is $364,500, which would be $6,750 per child for the entire school year. Again, just as it is this year. The vendor also submitted a proposal for 54 seats at one of their facilities. And so although we had asked for 106, 54 is what was proposed. And there is a large difference in the cost, of course, due to multiple other items added into this proposal. And so that proposal is $500,050, which would come out to $9,260 per child. So there is a large difference there. When we talk about the proposal to be housed on 54 at Scotchtown, our district contribution would be approximately $54,000. And that's just what it is this year, approximately $54,000. If we were to move forward, and if we were to award this bid for the 54 at an alternate location, we would have to cover $189,428. So that would be on top of that $54,000 that we currently contribute. And so the total responsibility to increase by 54 would be $243,306. Now, of course, we don't have to increase by 54. We can work with the vendor and increase by a number that may work for us, that might be more fiscally attainable. Those are discussions that we can have and try to figure that out. These are the numbers that I currently have. And so last year we opened the registration window for our families on January 13th. So we're right around that time. We're not, although it may seem that we're getting past that date quickly, we still have a lot of time, so we're fine there. We held the lottery right toward the end of January last year, so it was January 28th. It was on a Friday. And so again, we would like to move forward so that we can get everything registered, all of the paperwork collected, everything vetted properly, and then move forward with lottery and establish those seats that would be awarded plus our wait list. But I do think that we probably have to have a little bit more of a discussion about the figures. And so that's where we're at right now with the proposals that came in. Willing to take a pause there if you have any questions about those numbers.
Yeah, the only question I have, and I understand this is in the theory stage at this point, but transportation would be parents,
Transportation for parents.
and then a lottery would be like a double lottery, because some parents are gonna wanna be local versus another location, so would that be like a blind lottery to location?
Yeah, so we really have to sit down in-house here at central office and establish how we want to do that. I mean, initially, I thought it could be the first 54 go to in-house, and then, the next 54 would be for, of course, the outside facility, and then parents are notified the same day and with larger numbers maybe into the next day. And so, if parents just don't want to take advantage of that opportunity, we would have the wait list established and get it out. I would also tell you that last year, right from jump, we had a handful of individuals who said that they did not want to take advantage of the opportunity that they had through lottery for the in-house seats. And so, I'm sure that we can figure that out. I would prefer to pull, 54 plus whatever all at the same time and just establish where that lands on our list.
So my only other question is, have we spoke to legal at all? Just housing our kids at a different location that we don't really have control over, is there anything that we should be aware of?
So as far as an outside location, we've done it before in year one, and they are bound by OCFS regulations. And through UPK regulations in itself, there are requirements, if not having a certified teacher, you would have, a lead teacher in charge of all teachers that would be certified, and then those that are running a classroom would have to have a 5-year plan to pursue that certification. We're very fortunate in that the provider currently works with certified individuals, and they do go through all the health and safety checks and inspections that are required by OCFS. And we would get those reports. Everything would remain the same as far as professional development opportunities. The larger difference would be, for instance, meals. Whereas our meals currently would come from our in-house provider, they would work with an outside provider or vendor, which is part of the proposal.
Thank you.
Regarding UPK for now. And so next moving on to Desha's law. So this is something we've been talking about in cabinet for a few weeks now. This is something that was signed into law in July, but it takes effect on January 20th. And primarily it deals with cardiac event response and the district's ability and each building's ability to deal with a cardiac event. And so you would imagine if you have a cardiac event, you have to have a plan in place on how to deal with that. That plan does not just include dealing with the individual in crisis, but also proper communication and management of the facility and plant thereafter. And so it does require for us to have a cardiac emergency response plan in place and uploaded to the business portal through each school-wide site and through our district plan. And so that plan has been created, and each building does have that on their plan. And then AEDs, as you would imagine, would be our primary tool to help someone in crisis, especially during a cardiac event. And so there are provisions here that basically tell us it has to be clearly labeled, accessible, has to be well maintained. And then there's the training component that has to be integrated into the annual training. And so when we talk about annual training, you're familiar probably from past conversations where we talk about workplace violence, we talk about bloodborne pathogens, mental health components. That's all a part of our yearly trainings that are required. And so now AED training must join that larger group of trainings. So we'll take care of that piece, but then there's the physical component where we may provide CPR, first aid, safety, and use of AED to any and all faculty and staff members. And so we've worked closely and had conversation with James McCardle, the transportation department, Mr. St. Lawrence, Mr. Pantaleone in the high school, and other administrators, of course, to see how we can get by and provide this training so that we're properly prepared in the event of. So we already have coaches that are properly trained. So if we have athletic events in our buildings, we're equipped to handle that. Currently working with Mr. Pantaleone and a few of his staff members, Mr. St. Lawrence and a few of the staff members to provide it, starting with all of our high school teachers that are willing to take it. So we can provide this training in-house to get everyone first aid, safety, CPR, and AED trained, which I think is wonderful. And then we'll start to move down into any other building and department that we feel would fit the bill. Of course, this isn't something that we can mandate, but we're going to offer it, and we'll cover the cost in-house. In addition to that, we're well aware that BOCES offers training, and we're well aware that the county offers training. And so we'll take advantage of whatever we can to minimize the cost. The most important thing is to ensure that we're trained and equipped. In addition to that, probably what I would consider to be maybe the most difficult to manage at the upstart would be the outside organizations that choose to come in and use our facilities. So of course you realize we allow for many outside organizations to use our facilities and fields consistently. And so there's really never a day or an evening where our buildings aren't being used and they're not packed. And so the requirement, it does say that the facility has to be equipped and prepared to handle an event, even when there's an outside agency or organization using the facility. So this is where our custodians come into play, and this is where transportation comes into play, and we'll work that out. I did have a conversation with our legal team to get the finer details. They believe that someone can be on call at all times, and so, for instance, if there's an event and someone can't locate the AED, someone should be on call so that you can make that. I know it sounds crazy, but it may happen. So they're requesting them to probably put someone on call. And they're also suggesting that we speak to our organizations and say, hey, for instance, CYO, you may want to have someone in your organization take part in this training as well. And that someone should probably be a coach or, a trainer who joins the team. And so, we're prepared to move forward. We feel good about where we're at with our AEDs. We feel good about where we're going with our training. Our plans have been completed, and so we'll be good there. The only other piece here is the purchase of many more AEDs that can travel, for instance, on buses, and can be placed in other centrally located areas of the building, not just the main lobby. And so we're working through that with Lorene and the business team and keep moving forward, okay? Just some brief updates now. Every month we run our new teacher training seminars, and so we had a very good session on Thursday, the 8th. Just wanted to take a moment to thank Dr. Hendershot. She helped us out here with covering the CSE process, talking about CSE 504 meetings, and talking about integrated co-teaching, what that should look and feel like in our classroom settings. And so we focused on the laws that govern CSE. We talked about the timeline of the actual CSE process. Again, what does a CSE meeting look like? What should you bring to the table? What kind of questions might you be asked? And then we talked about ICT and teachers' roles and what an ICT setting should look like. Shared responsibility, everyone is active. It's not just one sitting in the back of the room watching the primary teacher handle content, etc. We've talked often about data-wise training, and so CJ Hooker and GIS is moving forward on the 13th at 2 p.m. And so now we have our middle school and our high school team just starting their data-wise training, which will be on the heels, of course, of our Education Elements MTSS training, which is coming up on the 14th at 9 o'clock district-wide. And so I feel like we're moving in a really good direction and consistently chipping away at the trainings that are necessary for our programs to move forward. You heard Mr. Bon Jovi talk a little bit about the Columbia suicide prevention training that we had today. So we had Adam Lesser, an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker from Columbia, present to our larger group of administrators, social workers, school psychologists, counselors. It was an hour long, but it was certainly jam-packed with information. And so basically, we created more awareness of identifying risk factors in our students, and then talking to them about conducting that inquiry process, sitting the student down maybe in crisis, gathering information, and how to deal with that information. Talk about the do's and don'ts, and then the completion of a locally designed summary report and how to handle, for instance, a safety plan moving forward. So PPS did a great job. Dr. Hendershot did a great job in organizing this for us. And the team at Columbia really did a great job of jam-packing an hour of information into this presentation. So I just talked about Ed Elements meeting with their team again. Just want you to know this is talking about the MTSS practices district-wide. And so it's the standardization of the process. But at this particular meeting, we're going to discuss our current practices at each building to see where are our misses, where are the gaps. And we're going to establish our goals together as a district moving towards standardization. And then we'll finalize the priorities of this project. And so I'll just remind you, Tier 1 is very important to us, right? But this is all the offspring of being placed on the TSI list. And so our number one priority right from jump is to move our students forward, especially those that have been identified, for instance, our students with disabilities in the subgroup, to increase their foundational skills and their knowledge base in ELA and move us forward collectively to get off of the list. And so that is the ultimate goal, but this is a great opportunity for us to expand and establish many other goals. And then I'm just trying to keep you aware of the status of our substitutes. I know we're always concerned about covering our classes, and so we do have another substitute teacher orientation scheduled on the 27th through the 29th. As of this afternoon, at the end of the workday, we had 6 individuals signed up, paperwork was in, they're ready to go. The window is still open to sign up, and so we're hopeful that maybe some more individuals that hear this evening will contact Michelle Cerna or Andrew Ricciardi, sign up and get moving. And all in all, I think we're doing the best that we can right now in covering our classes in-house. The principals are doing a great job with the help of our clerical staff. And I think we're doing a good job of filling our vacancies with our certified individuals that we're able to find. And that will conclude my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And moving on, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. We have Brett and John. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the interim superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Lara Mullane, elementary teacher, effective July 1st, 2026. Ms. Mullane has been with the district for 10 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the interim superintendent of schools, Board of Education accepts the retirement of Margaret Grossi, elementary teacher, effective July 1st, 2026. Ms. Grossi has been with the district for 9 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the interim superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Margaret Hughes, teaching assistant, effective July 1st, 2026. Ms. Hughes has been with the district for 19 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the interim superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of William Kelly, school bus driver, effective December 20th, 2025. Mr. Kelly has been with the district for 9 years. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education approves the remainder of the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, good luck. Best wishes in your next chapter of life for all of you retirees. Thank you for your service to this district.
Yes, I also want to just make note of Laura Mullane, Margaret Cross, and Margaret Hughes, and William Kelly. Thank you very much for your service to the district. It is greatly appreciated. We certainly wish you all the best in your next chapter. And that's 67 years combined. I mean, they didn't catch up to Roy Reese just yet, but they'll get there. But thank you very much to all those people for their service.
Would anybody like to pull any new business items or are you okay? Great, all right, need a motion to approve new business. Yeah, Brett and John. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the interim superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the new business items as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Moving on to board member comments, open agenda items. I had mentioned 2 items earlier in the meeting. Are there any additional items that anybody would like to discuss before we hop into those?
Just a question, on the next meeting, Ray, can you just give an update on Medicaid billing?
Actually, update you now.
If you, I didn't wanna put you on the spot, I
No,
figured I
that's
would
okay.
try to give you a heads up for another one.
Well, it's unfortunate because we still didn't receive our certification to do the billing, and I did call and check on it. It's in November, and they said there's a long list of people ahead of us. It would be done as soon as they could get picked up to it, but I'm surprised at how long it is taking, you know. Sorry, but once we get that, then we can begin our billing.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any other items anybody would like to bring up?
Board member comments?
Yes. Open
Yes.
agenda, board member comments.
Absolutely, I would just like to note and thank Lena Polchinski, she was appointed as AP of Scotstown tonight. Lena will be at Scotstown, Erica Cruz will be at GIS, and again, that's 1,100 students every day who will be positively impacted by those appointments, so. Again, looking forward motion Goshen to all the great things to come here. I also wanted to mention and thank the county. So Steve Newhouse and Pete Sirigliano approached us with the CRT mapping, so we approved that contract. So what that is for the public, this really kind of comes out of the military. So what they are doing is the county's paying for everything. So they're taking the maps, kind of the overhead map of every school district in the county, and they make grids out of it. So that, you know, in the worst case scenario, if police, fire, whoever had to come here to assist in an issue, let's say they were going to, you know, they don't necessarily know our schools by heart. So they'll have, everyone, all the emergency responses will have our grid, so they can say, oh, we're at CJ Hooker and the incident is in G1, it's almost like, you know, battleship. And then they'll know, everyone will know exactly where to go. This is being paid for by the county through the Stop On program. So this is actually, they're using all the money from the tickets they give to people who pass school buses. So thank you for paying that. But my goal was that they won't be able to pay for this again, so because I want people to stop passing school buses. So please, be very aware, drivers, when you're out there, if the school bus stops, just stop. Please don't be impatient. But again, thank you to Steve Newhouse and his entire staff for this great initiative.
All right, very good. Yes. Anything else? All right, so we'll dial it back to the other two items. So we touched on it in December, you know, our options, we have an open seat here. So I'd like to just hear feedback from the team, just to quickly remind everyone, we can leave the seat open, we can appoint someone, or we can have a special election right away. Thoughts? What would you guys like to do?
I would think at this stage of the game, already January, we would just leave the seat open. I mean, we're already entering petitions, election cycle in 12 weeks. So that's how you're able to either have interviews to appoint somebody or hold a special election. I don't think it would be conducive for somebody to take the seat for maybe 6 weeks.
Well, the cost of
Yeah.
us to run it, so I agree.
I agree. Good, that's an easy one, so we'll leave the seat open. And then when we have the election, Maureen, correct me if I'm wrong, but at that time, one person will take that seat for the month, right, and then start their regular cycle, so it will be a regular appointment plus a month. Okay, great, that was easy. All right, our next item, we need to make a final decision on our decision to hire a search firm. So we had our RFP, we've done some surveying, we spent a lot of time talking to legal when we ran the search for the interim. And so it's time to make a decision. What are some thoughts? The search firm, no search firm? We had a very different amount of prices here.
I think our search for interim was, you know, we took a lot of time and made a lot of, you know, conducted a lot of interviews. And we did a diligent questioning of the people to try to find the best interim that we could find. And that, at this point, we're 6 months in, and quite honestly, I'm happy with where we're going. I think that we still need to do our due diligence and put out for another local search ourselves, but to waste money to go to spend a large, some of these RFPs are huge. I don't see that. I think that we already are interviewing right now on the job, to be honest with you. And to waste the money going forward.
Two things you said, Brett, not to cut you off, that just jump out at me right away, that I think I can rule out also. Regarding a search, I think a local search, not a national search, is kind of appropriate in my eyes. Should there be one, and I absolutely agree. I wouldn't want to hire a firm spending $15,000-$20,000 if we don't need to. And if we decide as a group that we do want to post a position, the services from BOCES, should we need to lean on them, is no charge except for marketing. But also I agree with you, we had a lot of feedback from legal when we did the search originally on posting it, how long to keep it open, the process we should go through, and the interviews. Other thoughts from everybody?
I would agree with Brett. I'm not interested in doing a very, very costly national search, especially if BOCES is a free service. We can do something locally. We spent a lot of time with the interim search and learned that people are looking at internal postings. We had a lot of people from a lot of various different backgrounds from different parts of the country. So I think we're still gonna hit a lot of people. And I think it is very important that we do our due diligence and just, you know, check every box and make sure that we're continuing to head in the right direction. I feel very happy with where we are. Fantastic. We just gotta stay on that correct path of making sure we look at every single option to make sure it's the right one for our district.
I'd agree, and I think that Mr. Bon Jovi has done a great job of moving get us forward. If nothing else, keeping the ship afloat. So, I think that the idea of spending an exorbitant amount of money on national search doesn't seem warranted today. And I think that if we were to move forward with BOCES and end up unhappy with the results, it wouldn't rule out the possibility of doing that later. So I don't think there's any harm in that. I think we're in a very good position today. So I wouldn't want to see us spend that money. Considering that there's a very good chance we pay a national search firm and end up with local cabinet. So
Right, just one more thing.
Please.
Just going on to that spending the money part, I mean, we're listening to all the things that we desperately need, right? And I just think that falls right into that category of what do we need if we need to spend that money on a national search firm. And I just don't feel that that's something that is beneficial for taxpayers and for all the things that our students need at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, I'm hearing here that, correct me if I'm wrong, but do the due diligence and maybe open the posting for the full position, right? I think that makes sense, I agree with that as well. You know, looking back, I did freshen up on the proposal from BOCES as well, and one of the other things that, you know, they mentioned is walking us through the process and also, you know, putting together any input as needed from additional stakeholder groups. And, you know, there's talk in there about maybe having additional members on the hiring committee and an interview committee. So if we take that route, what is your thought, team, here as to having other stakeholders join us as part of that process? Do you think that's something we're gonna navigate? Is there any elements within this where we might need to lean on BOCES, or do we feel comfortable opening the search, kind of putting that together, you know, all the process we just went through?
I think that we'd lean on BOCES, quite honestly, I think they're parallel, finding a interim and finding a superintendent, there's really not a gigantic difference overall, so we've done it. It was successful, we had a lot of applicants, we actually conducted a lot of interviews.
9.
Yeah, so I think having them there to lean on, but we duplicate what we just did. And from what we learned on the first time, we can use on the second one and come to a conclusion that's good for the district.
Scott, Billy, what do you guys think? Not to put you on the spot.
No, I think I agree with what people were saying here. I think our first search, we had over, I remember, like 40 candidates. We did 9 interviews. We had people from near and far. I think now money is tight. I agree with not spending extra money that we don't have to or we don't need, and we'd rather put that money towards the students. I'm happy where we are. I'm happy when we look at the future. And I think we keep it local.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, great. So I think that kind of sums it up. What we'll do is we'll open the posting for the position. We'll lean on BOCES as necessary. We'll kind of map out, we'll relook at our timeline like we had done earlier in the year. We had feedback from Melissa Knapp as to kind of the overall year out timeline. And you know, I'll communicate with her and communicate with the rest of the team as to what those milestones look like now from January throughout. And I guess Maureen, work with you again to get those postings up and take it from there. All right, great. And so, you know, I guess our goal will be to map out that outline and then just review that in our forthcoming meeting in February will be our goal. So we have final steps kind of mapped out for everybody. That's the process we're gonna do. Great, very good. Any other items? No, all right. All right, moving on then. It's really nice not to read all that stuff. Fantastic suggestion. We need a motion for executive session. We have Brett and John. Be resolved, the Board of Education will enter into executive session with the intent not to reconvene the business portion of the meeting for discussions related to the employment history. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have a great night.